following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Mick Shots.
Streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And it is time for another edition of Mick Shots. I am Bill Jones with the great Everson Walls, future Hall of Famer Everson Walls, I might add, and Mickey Spagnola. We are 1 week down, just over 3 weeks to go now before the Cowboys kick off this 2020 regular season at the Los Angeles Rams. How you guys doing this morning?
I'm doing great, and sitting here at the Star, watch practice at the Ford Center, and ready to take some shots today.
All right. How about you, Everson?
I am feeling good. I have your optimism today, Bill. Everything is about Cowboys. Everything is about the season getting going, and we are looking forward to the Super Bowl. Where's your hat? That's what I want to know. Where's your Super Bowl hat?
That's right. I need to get. In fact, the Super Bowl is going to be carried on CBS once again this year, and so I need to get my CBS Super Bowl hat to get ready to make the trip to Tampa. We're ready, and in fact, Drew Pearson may be making the trip to Tampa. As some big news for him we'll get into over the course of the next hour. And that moves, see, Mickey, that moves Everson one step closer to getting into Canton, don't you think?
Absolutely should, right? You never know how those wheels turn up there in Canton, but I think Everson should be absolutely next. And I was going to be hesitant to bring it up because I didn't know if Everson would oh, he's getting in and I'm not.
No, you know,
but good for
guys.
Drew. Yeah, I know you. That's right.
Guys, I love me some Drew. I mean, everybody does. I mean, that's why he was I think he was the only senior nominee this year, because to me, that's just making up for lost time. That's like a makeup call in basketball. They know they shouldn't have done it, and they're trying to go back and reverse their mistakes. So good job by the Hall of Fame committee.
Yeah, it's almost like they cleared the table off. It's like, let's not confuse this, right? And have 2 or 3 nominees. We're going to have one and get it right.
And so by being the lone senior finalist,
that's when you know somebody screwed up, guys.
Takes place the Saturday before the Super Bowl, February 6th in Tampa. And you have to get 80% of the vote, a virtual shoe-in. And what's interesting about it is the fact that, of course, back in January, we all saw Drew was so emotional when he did not get the call. And he got the call from David Baker earlier this week. And now, oddly enough, with this pandemic, Jimmy's going in next year, the actual induction ceremony, Cliff Harris as well. So as it turns out, if Drew gets voted in on February 6th, he'll go in with everybody else, just like he got, as if he would have been voted in back in January.
A Cowboys jamboree in Canton, Ohio, absolutely.
Hey, see that the pandemic is the great equalizer. That's what that pandemic was.
All right.
It was
Mickey,
a great equalizer. I love that. I love it. Everything turned out well.
We'll talk more about that over the course of the next hour and take your comments on it as well. But, Mickey, we had a practice once again this morning. We had a Mike McCarthy press conference at 7:15 a.m., and you took it all in. Give us an update, what you know from Cowboys practice this morning.
Well, they did a split location practice, I should say. Did the individual drills outdoors on the grass field, and then when they went into the team period, they moved inside to the Ford Center. So not sure why he split it like that. I don't know if he's getting paranoid of people watching the team practice outdoors with all the construction going on, or what the deal is, but they had practice indoors the previous day. And then they did half and half today. So individual drills, and then really working hard indoors on 2-minute drill, hurry-up offense. They've done that now for the past couple days, and it's been pretty exciting to watch. They did have a couple, I don't know if I should call them minor injuries. Jordan Lewis left as soon as they started the practice indoors. Looked like he got tangled up, a little bit of an ankle maybe. Tyron Smith left during individual drills, so I'm not sure what was going on there. And as for updates on Everson Griffin, he was in uniform, but really didn't do much, especially when they went to team. He and Dontari Poe, who's now off of PUP, basically during the team sessions, they were just watching. So pretty spirited practice, and I thought Cedric Wilson kind of put his hand up in the air and said, "Hey, don't forget about me." Everybody talks about the first 3 wide receivers, and he had himself quite a day today during the team session.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. It seems weird. The Cowboys go from Forest Lane over by Hamilton Park, where I grew up, Bill. You know where that was.
Yeah.
And they were always worried about being spied on from the hotel, the Days Inn, which has 2 stories, and we had the little 6-foot fence, so they would always spy on our practices. The Cowboys have gone all the way from Forest Lane to Frisco, and they still might have that same concern. So just think about how weird that is. That's one thing you got to think about.
Hey, Everson, you know what? The other night I saw a special on the news, and it was about Hamilton Park. And a guy that grew up there, went to school at the elementary school, and now he's the assistant principal at the elementary school there in Hamilton Park. So they gave me a little history lesson of where you grew up.
Oh yeah, and that's you can kind of surmise from the special just how proud we were as a people. It was really, when they talk about a project, they talk about a development of African Americans. Hamilton Park is like no other. I was able to deal with Gil Brandt, Tex Schramm, Hollywood Henderson, Drew Pearson. I was able to deal with all of those different personalities on the football field because when I grew up in Hamilton Park, we had every type of person that you ever wanted to come across. Rich, poor, intelligent, crazy. So it was like a sociology project, and that got me ready for the craziness that was up there at Forest Lane and Adrian's back in the day. Twin Sixties Hotel as well.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a planned neighborhood, and that was where they allowed, I guess, the black folks to be able to live within the city limits, it seemed like.
Returning World War II veterans and also Korean War veterans as well. That was what it was for. I don't know how this black doctor pulled it off to buy this primo land on the north side of Dallas. They've been trying to boot us off that hill ever since. We're still hanging in there. We're still hanging in there.
Well, it was interesting. So.
Well, Mickey, one note about practice today. Everson Griffin has worked his way around to wearing his customary number 97 for the Cowboys. Originally, he was, I believe, going to be 96. He's now 97. Tristan Hill has switched to 72?
72, yes. Yeah. And Neville Gallimore moved to 96.
Okay, all right. So for those of you keeping track at home, that is your roster update, your numerical roster. So you can now update that on your respective computers. Let's talk about the news of the week to kick things off. And of course, it was the first practice in pads on Monday. About 45 minutes into the practice, Gerald McCoy goes down with a ruptured right quadriceps tendon, had surgery the next day. Cowboys release him the next day, and as it turns out, he had a quad injury. In fact, not just a quad injury, but a right quad injury clause in his contract. And so he gets his signing bonus, but the Cowboys are off the hook for the rest of his contract. Take us through that, Mickey.
Yeah, it's a pretty savvy contract the Cowboys put together. So when he took his original physical, when it checked out, they saw a pre-existing condition with the right quadricep. So in the contract, they put a clause in there that said if something happens with the right quadricep tendon or anything related to the right quadricep, that the contract basically becomes null and void, and the only money that we're guaranteeing him that he will receive was the $3 million signing bonus. So any other guarantees, the per roster game played guarantee, salary cap, that all went away. So the Cowboys ended up putting $4.75 million back into the cap for this year. Now his charge on the $3 million signing bonus will be spread over 2 years, $1 million this year, $2 million in dead money next year. So obviously they saw something when he signed here. And Bill and Everson, I was just wondering, maybe that's the reason why the Cowboys were able to sign him when other teams maybe backed off, is that they were willing to gamble the $3 million to bring him aboard, where maybe other teams weren't. We had said originally, and there was probably something to this, that he wanted to get closer to his son, who was going to be a freshman at Oklahoma on scholarship, and that may have had something to do with it. But it also, maybe he didn't have a lot of people knocking on his door because of the pre-existing condition with his quad.
And I'm sure, man, as things went on, I'm sure he wasn't looking forward to this type of scenario. Just so happened the Cowboys anticipated it, and I'm sure it was no big secret as well. Like you said, Spags, that's why no one was signing him at the time. They put that clause in. They were willing to eat the $3 million plus if that was to happen. I think it's kind of sad, though. I thought we saw some good things that were going to happen. We could foresee some good things that we were hoping that would happen with McCoy. It would have been nice to see him in that uniform and play out the season and see just what he could do for us. I guess when it's all said and done, it's a consolation prize that he is able to get the money and able to stay down here with his son. But it's kind of what I spoke about last show, guys. This pace that we're dealing with in regards to the season, in regards to no preseason games, in regards to the accelerated pace on getting this team ready, these injuries are going to wreak havoc on the Cowboy roster. And we may go into the season with some very odd combinations when it comes to the roster itself. And I'm very curious to see how the Cowboy coaching staff and their training staff is going to deal with all of these different injuries coming and with the accelerated pace that they're dealing with. It's going to be an odd combination for the team to deal with, more so, of course, than a regular season when you're dealing with this accelerated pace and the COVID thing going on. It's going to be like juggling balls, really. It's going to be like a juggling act for the coaching staff and the training staff.
Everson, I agree.
Go ahead,
I agree with you on that, and they've done a pretty good job so far, because if it's a 2-hour practice, the first hour is all special teams and individual drills, so there's really minimal contact. And the unfortunate thing of this one was it was during the individual drills where all they were doing was coming off the ball and having another defensive lineman across from the other guy and just kind of acting like he's an offensive lineman. And unfortunately, when Antoine Woods came off, and it happened, we were watching from the quarterback club in the Cowboys club. It was right below us, and he stepped on his foot.
That's what I thought happened. It looked like he stepped on his foot. That's exactly what I thought.
And when he went back, you got 300 pounds standing on one of your feet, and it ruptured the tendon in his quad. So it was kind of a weird one. It wasn't like sprinting downfield or pushing off and trying to tackle somebody. And they haven't done that yet, by the way, either. There's been no tackling. There's been bumping. As a matter of fact, I saw Alden Smith today. It was a running play by the sideline, and he nailed the running back and knocked him out of bounds. And then when the guy got up, I said, "Oh, it's 20, not 21, so it's okay."
Well, one thing that we talk about, these are pretty much non-contact drills that we're talking about. Once the season starts,
yes.
Oh my goodness, I cannot wait to see the injury report after the first ball game, after the full contact, after all of the intensity. The guys are trying to hold everything for the first game, trying to hold it in. The injury list for after the first game is going to be so long and so confusing. It's going to be a trip.
As is the case every year, early in training camp, there's always a lot of injuries, and the ACL count as of about 24 hours ago across the league was, I believe, at 8. Normally, one doctor said that in a typical NFL season, you have 50 ACL injuries across the league. And so we are 1 week into this, and as of yesterday, there were 8 ACL injuries across the league. And again, as you said, Everson, teams aren't going necessarily full speed all the time at all right now. And, the hitting hasn't started or anything like that. And so it's going to be interesting this year, as you say, because they did not have the typical off season to see how many more injuries, if indeed we do have more injuries as we go along. What about, and by the way, I'm monitoring of course, we're streaming as usual on Periscope. I'm monitoring Periscope, so if you have any comments, any questions, I can pass them along to Mickey and Everson here. But what do the Cowboys do now with McCoy out? I think one of the, not only his ability on the field, but his presence in the locker room is something that they're going to really miss. If you know anything about Gerald McCoy, you know that he has such a positive outlook on life. It was evident even as he posted videos from his hospital bed prior to surgery and after surgery. He says that he still wants to be a mentor to these young defensive linemen that he had established a relationship with, even though now he can't go in the building because he's been released by the team. He's still going to connect with them. But how do the Cowboys offset the loss, because they were counting on Gerald McCoy to be a big part of this team?
Yeah, Bill, and we talked about that previously, about his influence in the locker room. They will miss that, because I think those young guys were following him, especially Tristan Hill and Neville Gallimore. What a great example. What a great personality mentor for those guys. And, I always felt like a guy like Tristan Hill really needed that after he kind of had a washout rookie season. But he seems to have turned things around a little bit. His body looks better. His enthusiasm looks better. And when they're going out there and, he's taken the place in a lot of the snaps of Gerald McCoy. And so has Tyrone Crawford. And so between those two guys and Gallimore, they're going to have to fill that spot. And it maybe takes 3 guys to do it. And I always thought that was going to be a rotation position there anyway, that, McCoy wasn't going to play 45 to 55 snaps a game. That they would try to get some young guys in there. Now, if they earn it, they're getting every opportunity to do so. Now we're going to see what you got, Tristan Hill. We're going to see what you got, Neville Gallimore. And if those guys, don't grab some snaps, then Tyrone Crawford's going to be your 3 technique, especially on first and second downs. And if they go to nickel, I wouldn't be surprised. Look, they've got some big defensive ends, right? Aldon Smith is 280. Joe Jackson's 285. Those guys, and Jackson rushed some from inside. Those guys can easily move inside and create some problems. And then you got Antoine Woods at the nose tackle position. Dontari Poe hasn't practiced yet. So I'll be interested to see if you know a little bit about Antoine, right? He's not a give-up guy. So I'm sure he's thinking, okay, you brought in Poe, but I'm going to fight for my snaps.
And when you look at the roster, the core of this team, they all seem to be around the same age. And also the same temperament. You look at the offensive lineman, you don't really have an outspoken guy on the offensive lineman. I think Looney might have been one of the more charismatic guys on the O-line. You're looking at the quarterback position, running back position, D-line. No one really stands out as that boisterous player. You bring in a guy like Everson Griffin, who's really not that boisterous. He's just a guy that does work as best he can, but I don't recall him being that vocal leader. They're going to have to rely on, I don't know, either one person is going to have to step up and be that person that inspires you. Maybe Woods would be that guy, but for the most part, everyone on that team seems to have the same temperament. No one seems to step out as that person that's unusually boisterous or that vocal leader. It would be nice to keep McCoy around, but like you said, he can't come to the practice field anymore. But it would be nice for him sometime in the future to be that voice for the team in the locker room. Have a team full of players that are almost of the same temperament. I think that's why when things start to go wrong in the ball game, you really don't see a sense of urgency coming from any particular player. You don't have that Michael Irvin or that Dez Bryant over there, trying to, punching at the air and getting people fired up. I think they're going to need that person. Yeah. You need someone, maybe it'll be Coach McCarthy. He can go out there and throw a red flag at a referee and hit him in the face. And then that might inspire some people. But you don't have that on the team right now. I hope they can find someone that can inspire them verbally in that way.
When Everson brought up the makeup call earlier in the show, I was thinking, yeah, they sure didn't have a makeup call for two technical fouls on a basketball player.
That's exactly right.
And I'll just add this. I know we have to go to break, but one of the guys that has become more vocal now that he's at middle linebacker.
Hold on, Mickey, hold on.
Oh.
Let's tease that. I want to know.
I'll tell you after this.
Yes, let's take a break, and we will let you know who Mickey thinks that vocal guy who will step up in Gerald McCoy's absence when we come back on Mick Shots.
Hey there, Cowboys fans. With Tide Cleaners at-home pickup and delivery, cleaning your clothes has never been more convenient. Simply sign up at your local store, set out your dirty clothes, and one of our Tide Cleaners professionals will come directly to your home for a totally contactless experience. Your clean garments will be returned promptly the next scheduled delivery day, so skip the errand and enjoy life, not laundry. Visit TideCleaners.com or your local store to sign up for Tide Cleaners at-home pickup and delivery today.
Make the most of summer with Ford, America's best-selling brand, during the Ford Summer Sales Event. With great offers on a huge selection of Ford SUVs and the largest selection of truck inventory to choose from. Get huge offers across the Ford lineup. So grab the family and head out. Ford's helping you make the most out of summer. It's easier now during the Ford Summer Sales Event. Based on 2019 calendar year total sales. Based on Autodata compact and full-size stock inventory as of June 2020.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Back to Mick Shots.
Looking for something to change up your dinner routine? Help support local Frisco businesses by choosing one of the Star District restaurants. For information on delivery, takeout, curbside pickup, and dine-in availability, visit thestardistrict.com. Yes, there is activity in the Star District, and obviously inside the Star as well, inside Ford Center. The Cowboys have wrapped up another day of practice. They're in meetings and probably have a walkthrough this afternoon. I'm not sure exactly what the schedule is the rest of the day, but that's typically the way it works. As yesterday, it wasn't a day off for the players. It was a day off as far as practice goes, but they did have meetings and walkthroughs, and then they'll be practicing again tomorrow morning. Mickey, as we went to break, Everson was talking about the loss of Gerald McCoy and who's going to replace Gerald as that vocal leader that we anticipated that Gerald might be a part of. Who do you have in mind as a guy who's going to step up in that capacity?
Well, I don't know about in the locker room, but I've seen it on the field already. And that guy that's kind of taken charge of that defense is Leighton Vander Esch. They moved him. They've moved him to the middle linebacker spot, so he's getting the call. The defensive call from Mike Nolan in his helmet, relaying it to the rest of the team. So that doesn't make you a leader. I could go out there and relay the call probably if I could remember it all right.
I know you're not trying to compare yourself to Leighton.
I'm just comparing myself to relaying the call. Anybody can do that, right? But I see him being more vocal of getting guys lined up, making checks at the line of scrimmage or whatever they need to do. And he's talked about how he feels like he's a little bit more in charge now that he's at the middle linebacker spot. So from an on-field presence, look for him to kind of be that guy, being more vocal. And then if you need the emotion, I guarantee it, you can get it from either one of those defensive ends, from either Demarcus Lawrence and from what I've heard of Everson Griffin, probably him. As a matter of fact, guys, I just saw where he was doing his interview today while we were getting going, and Rob Phillips pointed out that Griffin talked about the Cowboys being his favorite team growing up. And we talked about this last week. We beat him to the punch and said he was named after the great Everson Walls.
Yeah,
so he talked about it in his press conference today?
Yes, he did.
All right.
He talks like that, but then he doesn't even know what position I played, so I'm kind of disappointed.
Mickey,
he played safety or linebacker. He said safety or linebacker or something like that. So,
well, he didn't name himself. It was his dad.
That's okay. When I talk to him, I'm going to be wagging my finger in his face like some old dude.
We're gonna have to get you two together, right?
Yeah, well, Mickey, we need to get them together on this show. That's your assignment for the coming weeks.
Appreciate it.
Is to get Everson Griffin on with Everson Walls so we can go down memory lane. All right, on the topic of the vocal leader, Everson, who on your teams was, I mean, we know who the big personalities were, but who are the real locker room leaders on those teams that you played on?
You know, when you start talking about locker room leaders, that's one thing. I happen to be one of those locker room lawyers. I don't know if the leader and lawyer go in the same category as far as coaches are concerned, but we had a team full of veterans. And one guy that I really enjoyed listening to, and he was my mentor, was both of them have to be DBs, actually, Dennis Thurman and Charlie Waters. Charlie Waters was just my own personal cheerleader because he wanted to make sure I made as many plays as possible because he's playing on one leg back there, so he needed as much help as possible. But he was a guy that was always in the coach's ear, always doing those things behind the scenes to make the scheme, the defensive scheme, more compatible to the team that we were playing against. That's what I liked about Charlie. You know, coaches will go out there and they'll have an idea of what's best for the players. You need a player to say what's best for the players, and Charlie was that guy. Dennis Thurman also was a guy that followed in that same suit, wanted to make sure that the players were in the best position to make plays in this difficult flex defense that we had to deal with. So those two guys were always those locker room leaders. But when it came down to it, unfortunately back then, you had a lot of people that were afraid to speak up because, the Cowboy locker room back then was a little bit rigid, a little bit more rigid as far as the owners were concerned, as far as the coach was concerned. So we had to find our leaders in some obscure places, and those two guys were the ones that really inspired me. Now, if you want to talk about guys like Harvey Martin, who was always fired up, he was just an engine within himself. Randy White was the same way, but just don't get in his way because he knocked the hell out of you too as a teammate. So you had all kind of ways that people inspired each other and inspired their teammates, but this team was a little bit more rigid than the team that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, they didn't have many.
In present day terms, Sean Lee would be a guy today in the latter stages of his career to what Charlie Waters was to you in the latter stages of his career back when you came into the league in the early 80s. And so there needs to be, like a Leighton Vander Esch, a Jalen Smith, Demarcus Lawrence, that type of guy who's in the Pro Bowl portion of their career where they can be big-time leaders. They're playing every play.
And on Everson's team, while, you have to kind of define leader, but they didn't have a lot of shy guys in that locker room.
That's right.
He mentioned Randy White. I could still hear the booming voice of John Dutton.
I forgot about John.
He was not shy, right? Eugene Lockhart, I wouldn't call him shy either. They had some characters in that locker room for sure.
I think when it came to inspiration, but when it came to inspiration, Bill, they wouldn't inspire you as much as they would put the fear of God in you if you didn't make the play. So that was the difference.
But don't you think that teams that are successful, you have to have a collection of guys like that are big personalities?
Yes, you do. And the fact that they were veterans, they were already there. They had already gone through so much. A couple of them had already been through more than one Super Bowl. So, yes, you had a lot of people that you could look up to in regards to inspiration. But it was up to you to find that inspiration. They weren't going to throw it out there for you. Like I said, the inspiration they gave you came through threats to your physical body.
Well, and just think about the wide receiving core on that team, and it relates to today's wide receivers. When you got Drew Pearson, Tony Hill, and Butch Johnson in your wide receiving core, they're not lacking for confidence.
No, absolutely not. And these top three guys, and we'll see where CeeDee Lamb goes. I mean, he's a rookie. But Gallup, Amari Cooper, I said last year they're the unwide receivers because they're very humble. They're not boisterous. Now they're confident in themselves, but they're not what we're used to seeing with Cowboy wide receivers.
Yes, I cannot compare those three guys to any of the receivers that we've had going back to even Michael Irvin. But Drew Pearson, Tony Hill, and Butch Johnson, you had more infighting than you did have, kumbaya moments, so to speak. So it was lively for the reporters back then. All you had to do was say one buzzword, and you get them fired up, and you have a story.
Hey, throw in Jay Saldi at tight end. He was one of the best interviews on the team.
Hey, and Tony Dorsett wasn't shy either, by the way.
And let's just keep going. Ron Springs.
And
let's just keep it going, guys.
I keep bringing up guys in that quadrant where Everson Walls lived once they moved out to Valley Ranch. Hey, and one thing.
Ron said he wouldn't make it to Valley Ranch, and he wasn't lying. Yeah. He said, "I'll never make it to Valley Ranch."
And talking about, and I thought this was interesting. Mike Nolan did his interview yesterday, and he was talking about Alden Smith. And one of the things he pointed out, he goes, number one, I like Alden Smith's interaction with the other players, to be honest with you. He's a he's a team player. He's got a lot of personality. I like the way he interacts with Demarcus Lawrence and Tyrone Crawford, with a number of guys. I see that chemistry starting to build. And then Dak was asked about Aldon today, and they asked him, does he look like a guy out there that hasn't played in 5 years? And Dak Prescott said, he's a man. He's a monster, and he damn sure doesn't look like he hasn't played in 5 years. And he had a really good day today. He had pressure on the pocket no matter who the quarterback was. And once, there was no Tyron Smith there, oh, those poor young guys, they're how do I say it politely? They're learning a lot, okay?
Well, and how about
Mike
McCarthy?
Kicked a lot. Is that what you're saying?
Hey, Mike McCarthy this morning, his first questions about Aldon Smith, and I don't remember exactly how it was posed, but McCarthy's answer was, I think if anyone sees him out on the practice field, their reaction is going to be, who's that number 58?
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of impression he's making out there on the field. But that's what the Cowboys need, players like that, and especially in building that chemistry. You got to, think of the Cowboys Super Bowl teams of the 90s and the personalities you had on that team.
And that's what this defense, I thought, has always been lacking, because everybody was kind of quiet. Nice guys, and it's like, yeah, you need some rabble-rousers out there. We're not in a choir here, so I think that's good, and it sounds like some of that is starting to build, and it's building, and yet there's been minimal contact. So once the contact starts up, we'll see a little bit more feistiness from some of these guys.
And I think on that defense, go ahead, Everson.
I was going to say let's put a little onus on the coaches as well. Spags, you talk about Mike Nolan. I think he's a very aggressive defensive coordinator, and I think the Cowboys need that. I think his defensive calls, I think the way he's going to use his linebackers deceptively when it comes to blitzes, the aggressiveness that he's going to have with his up front 7 players, I think that's really going to bode a lot. I think it's going to lend a lot to the attitude that this team has. Once they start really playing ball games and hopefully they show the success with the potential that they have, I think that is also going to be a good thing for the Cowboys' defensive front. It's going to allow aggression. It's going to allow, I think, for a lot of turnovers, because Mike Nolan has always used his linebackers in a very effective blitz style. And I think that's going to really open things up. It's like if you have a good three-point shooter, that three-point shooter is going to open it up for the postman down low. And I think these blitzes coming from the linebackers, it's going to open it up more for Demarcus Lawrence, for Aldon Smith, and players to use their aggression even more than they would so in normal circumstances.
And I don't think I'm giving away any secrets here, but, it's been talked about how Alden Smith has been used on the right defensive end spot, standing up instead of being in a three-point stance. And boy, when he stands up, you think, well, if it's a running play, he might be, susceptible to getting blocked. But his arms are so long, he can keep guys off him. And he's been pretty effective over there. And I'll say it again, especially when Tyron Smith's not in the game.
Well, and then how about Demarcus Lawrence standing him up some too?
Yeah, and he hasn't done it quite as much. And again, the last time I saw this take place, when they kind of went to that 3-4 with Bill, and Demarcus Ware was standing up. And then I saw Demarcus Ware backpedaling in coverage. And it's like, I don't want to see Demarcus Ware going backwards. I want him going forward, right? And so I'll be interested to see if they get into any of those schemes. Are you going to use those guys in coverage? Because they're basically your outside linebacker. So that'll be interesting to see how they do that. Because I'll guarantee you, Demarcus Lawrence hasn't had to drop off the line of scrimmage much and cover anybody.
One of the things when you stand up a Demarcus Lawrence or an Aldon Smith or Everson Griffin for that matter, you can do some things to find mismatches on your pass rush where they can go inside as well. If you go back and look at the Saints last year, they did a lot of that in their front four where they moved guys around, and there were multiple in that respect. Of course, Nolan wasn't the DC there in New Orleans last year. He was the linebackers coach, but I think some of those concepts, I think you can see him employing that, which we haven't seen as much of here in Dallas over the years.
Yeah, and you know what? Away from the predictability, Bill. That's where we were for the last few years. I think that's been our weakness. We've been happy to come out and show the offense just exactly what we're doing. We line up the same way all the time. I don't care if it was a 2-minute drill or if it was the beginning of the game. And I thought that led us to a lot of disadvantages. And that's why we were always so predictable as far as not getting turnovers as well. The offense is always going to know where you are. There were no surprises. We just started putting in the blitzes really last year when the new defensive coach came in. And those are the things that you just can't waste a play in that regard. To me, that's just taking a play for granted. You should always be able to show a change up in what you do. You have to mentally keep your offense off guard when it comes to how good they are at this time in football. Offenses are so explosive. So defensively, you have to take advantage of where you are strong. And if that has to be a little bit of misdirection coming from your defensive coordinator and from your staff, then that needs to be used. We have sorely missed that the last few years here with the Cowboys.
All right, when we continue here on Mick Shots, there's so much more to get into. I want to pick Mickey's brain on some other things that he's seen through the first week of training camp practices at Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Mick Shots continues in just a moment.
Hey there, Cowboys fans. With Tide Cleaners at-home pickup and delivery, cleaning your clothes has never been more convenient. Simply sign up at your local store, set out your dirty clothes, and one of our Tide Cleaners professionals will come directly to your home for a totally contactless experience. Your clean garments will be returned promptly the next scheduled delivery day, so skip the errand and enjoy life, not laundry. Visit TideCleaners.com or your local store to sign up for Tide Cleaners at-home pickup and delivery today.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team.
Get yours today at shop.dallascowboys.com or at stetson.com.
What do you call a group of grown men and women who get together every week, proudly wearing the star, to share a 3-hour-long ritual of cheering, shouting at the TV, and raising their Miller Lite together while yelling, "How about them boys?" You call it Miller Time and Cowboys Nation. Here's to the only beer of the Cowboys celebrating 60 years of greatness. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2020 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Hey, Cowboys fans, ready to spice up your next watch party? Bring Yo Quiero guacamole and be the game day hero. Yo Quiero means I want, and we know you want great, fresh-tasting, ready-to-serve guacamole for your home gating and tailgating events. Made with real avocados and the perfect blend of spices, it will be the star of any party. You can find us at your local Albertsons or Tom Thumb in the deli section. If you can't find it, talk to your store manager and tell them, Yo Quiero guacamole.
Back to Mick Shots.
Get the ultimate fan experience for the ultimate Cowboys fan. Join Dallas Cowboys United and get an exclusive DCU fan pack and member benefits. Memberships start at only $20. Visit DallasCowboys.com/United to join today. Mick Shots continues now. Bill Jones with Mickey Spagnola. who is experiencing some technical difficulties right now, I understand, and Everson Walls. We are streaming live on Periscope as well, take you to the top of the hour, and leading up to the start of the regular season, we'll be here on a weekly basis on Thursdays at 11 a.m. And Cowboys will practice again tomorrow, take Saturday off, then 3 straight practices Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And we're now just over 3 weeks away from the start of the regular season. That regular season is going to be here before you know it when the Cowboys play September 13th, a Sunday night game at the Los Angeles Rams, and the first home game the following Sunday on September 20th against the Atlanta Falcons. Everson, are you there?
I'm here.
You are there. Okay. You're echoing in my ear, but you are there. Everson,
I'm everywhere.
Let me ask you about the cornerbacks. And Trayvon Diggs has been worked in a little bit throughout the first week. We'll get more on that from Mickey when he gets reestablished here. But what are you hoping to see emerge out of this training camp at the cornerback position?
Well, I hope they have a guy that they can depend on. I hope they have someone that they can can make some plays for us. Someone that we can keep up with the athleticism, because we always had athletic cornerbacks, and that's what I like about it. But I want someone that can make the plays that need to be made. When you start talking about our secondary, we were reactionary. We didn't anticipate anything. And that's the problems that you have with a lot of just so-so defensive backfields. You have to be, as a unit, you have to have a culture there that can be smart and anticipate the plays that are coming your way. I don't care how good an offense is. Each one of them falls into a pattern. And you have to, as a defensive back, be smart enough to find that pattern. That's what Charlie Waters and Dennis Thurman did for me. They showed me how to study my opposition. And so that way I wouldn't be reactionary. I could anticipate what was going to come my way. Those interceptions, some of those interceptions weren't just about athletic ability that I made back in the day. Those interceptions was because I studied and because I had good study partners, people that showed me how to prepare for big-time ball games and play against big-time wide receivers. So not only are you studying the formations and the tendencies offensively, you're also studying your opponent, that single wide receiver that you're going against. And I don't think that we've been doing that in the past. Hopefully they can change that culture here back to the way it was, to where we understood exactly what the offense was trying to do to us and how this particular wide receiver was trying to set us up. Trayvon Diggs seems to be a guy that can figure that out. Hopefully he can do it on this next level as well, because he did it well in college. And you've got other defensive backs back there, such as Clinton Dix, who can be that anchor for you at a safety position and protect those corners and make sure that they have confidence in their safeties the way I had confidence in guys like Dexter Clinkscale, Michael Downs, and Charlie Waters.
I think I'm back, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes.
It looks like you're back now. Mickey, we got to give some credit to Everson here to pull back the curtain a little bit. We were discovering that if you open up another one of these little WebEx windows, it creates an echo effect in our ears that makes it sound like that you are speaking on a public address system at a stadium where you're hearing your own voice back and forth. And so Everson, when he went through that whole little soliloquy there, he was hearing himself for the first minute or so of that, but he fought through it. And he made it through it, and he delivered. He came through in the crunch. So kudos to you, Everson, for fighting through that.
Thank you, sir. I sounded like God for a minute there. It was kind of unnerving.
You sounded like Lou Gehrig giving his retirement.
Yes, the luckiest man in the world.
He's the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And we are so lucky that we do not have that in our ears now. All right, Mickey, what have you seen in our our last few minutes
Chris.
here.
Thank you, Chris.
I want to give you, we'll give Chris Beam some props there for getting that out of our ears, too. Mickey, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the guys that you've seen through this first week of training camp practices that have caught your eye. Where would you start?
Well, you guys were talking about the cornerback position, and they've been rotating them guys through, even on the first team. They normally, if Jordan Lewis was out there, between Awuzie, Brown, Lewis, Diggs, Worley, those guys have been rotating through quite a bit. And even in the secondary, they're giving the young guys a chance back there. So they've been kind of changing it up quite a bit. So it's really hard to say, okay, this guy's first team, this guy's second team. I don't think that's happened so far. Who's caught my eye overall? We know about Gallup. We know about Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb just plays this game so effortlessly. We were watching him catch punts as we were leaving after the practice finished, and the guys stay out there and do a little extra. And I wrote in Mick Shots yesterday, it's like, if you know the expression in baseball, catching a can of corn, and that started, that expression started with the old grocery stores when they used to have the cans up high, and they would have a pole, and they would pull the can down, and you would catch it, right, and put it on the shelf. Well, he catches punts just like that, like it's soft toss. And the other day they were doing a drill where it was a punt. They were catching punts, but what Fossil was having them do, this new special teams coach, is you stand, and it was off the jugs machine. So you stand with your back towards the jugs machine, and they fire it off. And when the ball hits its apex, he yells, "Turn!" And you got to turn around, find the ball, and this is indoors, so you're looking up in that roof. It's hard to find it, and then you got to catch it, right? He was doing it like he'd been doing it his whole career. It's just amazing. No stutter steps, just standing there, boom, catches it. So it'll be interesting to see, if he plays so much offensively, will he be okay to also return punts? Cedric Wilson's not bad at it either, but CD just does it so effortlessly. It's Mickey, amazing.
Mickey, let me throw in something about CD that I saw in person. It was at the Cotton Bowl last October, and one of his 3 touchdown passes in that game. He had an incredible game. Texas wins that game if CD Lamb's not on the field for OU. I mean, he just took over that game. But there was one play in particular where I believe it was a flea flicker, and he's down the right sideline about 25, 30 yards downfield, fairly deep pass. But it was a flea flicker, and Jalen Hurts just sort of heaved it high in the air. CD sees the ball, the trajectory of the ball, which is almost, he threw it so high it was almost like a punt. And I'm watching CD Lamb. I had a 50-yard line seat. Okay, so I'm watching CD Lamb, and he took his eye off the ball as it was in mid-flight and surveyed where the secondary was, and then he looks back up, makes the catch, and then made his way through 5 defenders for the final 25 yards all the way to the end zone. It was one of the most remarkable things I've seen on a football field, but it illustrates exactly what you're talking about, just the natural instincts that he has and the confidence that he has, the field presence that he has, that was remarkable.
I think the transition...
Let me say this. I love the way that Bill likes to show off his Oklahoma affiliation. Nice to know that they give you 50-yard line seats. I'm going to play with you. I'm going to the game with you next time, Bill, because I'm an OU fan myself. But it changes everything when you have the ability to do something that no one else knows how to do, and you work on it so well. It does make you stand out, Bill. When my dad taught me how to catch a ball, when he taught me the mechanics of how to follow a ball in the air, I didn't know how unique that would make me as a player. CeeDee Lamb, he does things like we talk about Beckham does all the time, the one-handed catches. That makes you an extremely special person. But as far as I'm concerned, if you can do all of that, I would love it if you would just be consistent in what you do. No missed passes, no mistakes, not taking your basic fundamental talents for granted. And to me, that would really show me just what good a player he is, because there are times when, yes, those amazing plays are going to have to happen, but just show me some consistency day in and day out. To me, that's more impressive. When you talk about Amari Cooper, I'm sure he can do all those things that CeeDee Lamb can do, let's be real. But he chooses not to because he's always so consistently good at being the fundamental player that he is. You show me fundamentals day in and day out and success at that. To me, that impresses me more, even though I do love seeing those plays by CeeDee Lamb, especially being an OU fan.
Well, and that play that CD made it that I was talking about, I mean, he doesn't have the run after catch on that play if he didn't do what he did there. So I think it was fundamental to him making that play too. He wasn't showing off doing it. He was just but he has that the natural instincts and so forth, that he's confident that, okay, I can go ahead and catch that ball. I can take my eye off it and read the defense and then go back to it. It was something else.
I think the difference is now you're going to have players. You're going to have defensive players that are going to react a little bit better to that. So how he's going to react to the level of play heightening for him, I can't wait to see how he adjusts to that. And I think he'll do well, Bill. Trust me, I'm a fan of his. I am. But it's not going to be, as you know, it's not going to be as easy going against some Big 12 DBs versus going against some big-time DBs in the NFL.
And, Bill, a couple other quick observations. I see why Andy Dalton's been a 9-year starter in the league. He's awfully accurate throwing the football, and I think that has stood out. And that stood out yesterday with Dak. I thought he had one of his best days. The ball in individual drills or team drills was not hitting the ground. He had a really, really good day. And then this one kind of, we talked to John Fossil yesterday, and I kind of asked him, you cut Kai Forbath, what went into that decision not to have any kicking competition in training camp? And he basically kind of got away from where I was going and said, well, we had to get to 80, so we cut the other deep snapper and we cut the other kicker. Well, finally somebody pinned him down and said, well, have you diagnosed what went wrong with Greg Zuerlein last year when his field goal percentage dropped to 72%, which I think was the lowest of his career. And he said, yeah, I diagnosed he had a bad groin strain. And he said all we were doing during the week, the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season, we weren't kicking him to try to get him through, and so it was affecting his swing. So he said he's got all the confidence in the world that they will get the Greg Zuerlein that he'd seen the last 8 years while they were together with the Rams. Well, we've only seen him in practice kick twice, and the first time we saw him kick, he went 6 for 6, and today between 33 and 44 yards, he went 6 for 6. So Fossil basically was saying, I guarantee you he's going to be one of the top, if not top, kickers in the NFL this year for the next couple of years for the Cowboys, now that he's over the groin strain that really hampered his swing last year. So that part stepped out because I thought we were going to be charting field goals all training camp.
Hey, Fossil.
Not so much.
Fossil knew what he had in Zuerlein. When Zuerlein came into the league in 2012, John Fossil was his special teams coach with the Rams, and he's been there all the way. And it was a priority for Fossil when free agency started that we've got to sign Greg Zuerlein, who's the only other kicker that John Fossil has had in this league as a special teams coordinator. He was with the Rams, and prior to that, he was the Raiders special teams coach, and his kicker those 4 years in Oakland was Sebastian Janikowski. He's had 2 kickers in his time as a special teams coach, Janikowski and Zuerlein, and that will continue this year.
Yeah, and so that's stood out. And one thing, I think there was a lot of anticipation that Trayvon Diggs was going to be a step-in starter. Well, he, as a rookie, he looked like a rookie for a few practices so far. he's got a ways to go to beat out the veterans. Let's just put it, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's more of a recognition thing and understanding, as Everson said about CeeDee Lamb. He's not going to be going up against Big 12 corners. Well, Trayvon's not going up against wide receivers that he saw in college. These guys are big-time players. So, but they're working them in, and they're giving them opportunities. I like that. They're giving Reggie Robinson opportunities. So that was a good thing. And one other guy that I wanted to point out that is getting opportunities back there is they haven't forgotten about Donovan Wilson, the safety that had a really good training camp last year, and then he kind of faded away once the season started. He's getting opportunities back there also at the safety position.
He made a lot of turnovers last year for the short amount of time that he was exposed.
All right. I think we're out of time on this edition of Mick Shots. Next week, Everson, I want you to tell us a story of how you gave an indoctrination to Michael Irvin when Irvin came into the league. Irvin interviewed CeeDee Lamb earlier this week on NFL Network, and he was talking about the schooling that Everson Walls gave him in one of his first practices. I don't know if you remember that or not, but next week I want to hear that story, all right?
It was several days, so I'll pick one out.
Okay, that does it for Mick Shots for this week, and we will see you again next Thursday at 11 a.m. Have a great week, everybody.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!